What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2.5 of the Black Delegates podcast. Recording to you the second time because Paul forgot to press record. Appreciate that, brother. So let's start off with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Sorry about that, but we're all good now.
All right. And on the line as well, we got Phenom. Phenom, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here. Blessed.
Good. All right, and I'm your host, the Black Ryan, if I didn't say my name at first. And I guess we'll get right into it. So, Paul, how was your week in Brownness?
My week in Brownness was pretty boring. Nothing really notable to speak of. Did a little stuff around the house. Hung out with the wife. Watched a few TV shows. And that's about it.
All right. And Phenom, how about you? Blackness? Your week in Blackness?
Man, this week in Blackness took me a while because I'd been thinking about, something that happened that was notable, that was, extraordinarily black, and there really wasn't a lot of things. Like Paul's, it was pretty regular up until today. I go to a predominantly black church, Ryan, as you know, and there was a gentleman who preached today, one of the assistant ministers or assistant pastors, a minister. He gave his sermon today, and this brother is from the South. I've known him probably for 7 years, maybe longer. And he just has difficulty pronouncing certain words. And so today, the central theme of his sermon had something to do with like the power of the flesh or resisting the flesh. But the way that he says it is he says flush. And for the entire time that I've known him, that's how he says it. That's just how he pronounces it. He's not trying to be silly. He's not trying to be funny, but he just says flush. And usually he might say flush maybe 2 or 3 times in a sermon, over a 30, 40-minute period. But today, like I said, that was a central part of his title and his theme. So we probably heard flush when he meant flesh at least 50 times. And so I was just looking around, kind of got an eagle's eye view from where I am because I'm on the AV team. And so I'm just seeing people snicker and laugh and, be little kids every time. Yeah, nobody laughed out loud, but you could just see people trying to hold in the laughter. And even there were people who sent a couple little text messages, just about it because it was just so the flush. And like I said, he can't help it. God bless his soul. But or not his soul, but just God bless him. But that's just flush. One. Bless his flesh. Right, there you go. So that was about the blackest thing that happened to me is just listening to that man say flush for a good 30, 40 minutes today.
All right.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah. First of all, disclaimer, I am a minister, associate minister at my church. So I totally understand situations where people are giving up, standing up, giving a testimony or whatever they're doing at church or public speaking, and they keep saying a word and pronouncing it wrong. I do have someone that does that. I won't say any names because just in case they listen to the podcast. But it's pretty funny when it happens. We have a church dictionary in my church. It's not anything that's formally written down, but we keep track of all the ghetto terms, ghetto slang that people may use when they get up and start talking, or mispronunciations of words, or using ing when you shouldn't, stuff like that. And we keep track of that and have a good laugh about it. But I can see how it could become a problem if you do it all the time, because nobody heard his sermon today, I guarantee it.
Right.
But week-wise for me, my week was pretty good. As y'all know, I started the new job, so I've been there for a couple weeks now. It's a different, being in management now and being over something and having control and power over things and giving your input, and it matters. So I'm getting used to that, where normally I just had an opinion. But now when I say stuff, like, it could actually happen. So it's kind of exciting. Yeah, it's exciting and it's scary at the same time. Because sometimes I'm like, oh man, like what if I say this and I'm wrong? When before you could just toss it out there and they would have to decide whether or not it's a good idea. But now it's straight almost into implementation when I say it. So, yeah, that's cool. But I had a strange run-in with a coworker of mine. Everybody there has been great. I have not gotten any awkward black people questions. Everybody's been real cool. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but you can imagine as a black man working in an all-white environment, what crazy questions you can get sometimes in the break room. Or,
And you did say, just for any new listeners who may have not listened to the previous episodes, that you are the first black man in the history of this company, right? It's not just like you're the only black man there. You're like the Jackie Robinson of this company. Is that correct?
Brother, I often call myself 42. When I'm there, I just tell them to call me 42. But yeah, that's what the owner said. I just took it with a grain of salt. I wasn't really sure. He just said I would be the only. So maybe they had one in the past. I don't know. I haven't asked. But yeah, I think so. So this lady, as sweet as she could be, older lady, older than me. She has. I wear a Cardinals coat, one of the kind that they wear like during the playoffs when it's real cold here in St. Louis. The majestic, really thick, like thermo warm whatevers, and. For me, I wear it to represent St. Louis because I don't like baseball at all. I don't watch it. I don't watch the playoffs. I don't watch the World Series. When we won, I ain't watch. That's it. I don't really care, but I still represent St. Louis every time I breathe. So when I wear the jacket, if I go out of town or something, I'm rocking the jacket. And she stopped me and came into the office, and she's just like she didn't want to disturb but wanted to let me know how much she loved my coat. And that the coat was so great, and that she was a huge baseball fan. And she went on, and I told her, I said, well, I don't want to break your heart or anything, but I don't like baseball at all, sorry. And she didn't really believe me. She's like, how could you not like baseball? She said, so you like football, right? And I'm like, no. And I was like, basketball. And she's like, oh, I can see that. I was like, I bet you can, ma'am. So she went on to say, she started talking about the coat again, and she asked me literally, she said, can I touch your coat? And I wasn't wearing the coat. The coat is draped over my office chair, and I said, sure. And I said it exactly like that because I thought it was strange.
So
And
you weren't wearing the coat, but was a coat, you said it was draped across your chair. Were you sitting in the chair? Was a coat touching you?
Nope, it was across from me in my my guest chair.
So you got two chairs in your office also. You are really the big dog in the office. You got two chairs.
I share an office, so I'm kind of a medium dog. Maybe a small dog. But
yo, Ryan, the question is, did she say, is that velvet when she touched it?
If she had I would have got the joke, but she was not joking. She was super serious. She talked about that coat and how warm she thought it would be, and how she used to have one. She thinks it was like that, but it wasn't that type. It was very strange interaction. I kind of just smiled and nodded for a while. She even came back two minutes later and said she wanted to make sure that she heard me correctly, that I didn't like baseball. So, yeah. It was
have you ever had a conversation wearing the jacket as much as you do, which I never knew that you had any Cardinals gear, because I know you don't like baseball, but do you ever get into awkward conversations where they ask you like about a player and you have no clue? Because I know you have, yes. you know none of the players at all.
Yes. This happens all the time. White people in my community, St. Louis is a huge baseball fan. So when I get smiles from the white folks, it's not because I'm black. It's because I got that Cardinals jacket on, which I think it gives me sort of a veil of protection when I'm in more white areas. They kind of think that I'm down with the cause.
The white security blanket.
I feel like they kind of think I voted for Trump maybe, or, I'm definitely, a good one.
What do you think of that? Maybe they're looking at you like, maybe he's Dominican. He could be like, like Ryan Gutierrez or something like that. Maybe he's one of those guys. Maybe he make him play shortstop, something like that. We don't know. He might
Ryan
be one of the good ones. Yeah, exactly.
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, when I used to rock like a Rams shirt sometimes, I mean, I'm a big dude. I'm 6'2", 3 something. We'll keep it a secret for the ladies.
For the ladies.
Right.
Sometimes they would think that it's a possibility he could play for the Rams. So, I always had that, but it's weird to have it with Cardinals gear. But yeah, that was kind of my week on that.
Well, cool, man.
Very strange, very strange.
Well, I would say just don't get too comfortable, especially here in St. Louis, which is a pretty segregated place. Don't feel like that is going to give you too much of a cloak, if it comes down to it, because people love the Cardinals, but at the same time,
Hate black people.
you
I
said
know.
it, not me.
All right. All right. And our first story we have here, speaking of our week in blackness. So we had a situation where, of course, and they do this to us on purpose, I think, conspiracy theory music here. Another whitewashing of black history. A little bleach here for we got a Nefertiti revealed special on the Today Show. I scrolled and saw that on CNN, I think. It linked to the Today Show and BBC. So they're basically taking a 3D rendering, an artist, interpretation of the body that they found, or mummy of Nefertiti. And they pull this big reveal. They take the cloth off the sculpture, and we see it. And if y'all look at that picture that I put in the in the group chat, Miss Nefertiti does not look black, African, or Egyptian to me. She looks like just a white woman from Brooklyn who may have been out in the sun too long. What are your views on that, Ishmael?
Yeah, to me, I mean, like, and I wasn't even thinking about this, but when you were telling the story about the Cardinals jacket and the white lady in your office, like, this is the lady that I was visualizing in my mind. This is not Nefertiti. This is your coworker that wants to touch on your Cardinals jacket. Just looking at it, you use the term whitewashing, and I think that is a very good term. I know this guy that came on to the Today Show. He said they did a lot of facial scanning, and it just seemed like a very comprehensive effort that they put into making this model. But it just seems like when it came time to, do the
Definitely
final
the color.
touches, when they gonna just determine the skin color and all of that, it just doesn't seem like it was very accurate. Now, I understand that Egypt is a place where, the people aren't all dark skinned. A lot of the people in Egypt, are fair skinned. As we would call them, they're like red bones, so they're a lighter complexion. They do have some dark Egyptians. They have some light Egyptians.
But at no point in time
but
were they ever
out
going
of
to do a dark
every-
Egyptian. Never.
Right. And even if you look at a lot of the historical paintings and the bust, I mean, Nefertiti and King Tut, who's supposedly her son, they had darker skin. It wasn't this very light, pale skin. Like you said, it looks like she got a partial suntan, not even a full suntan, like she was on the beach for like 45 minutes maybe, and then decided to go back in the crib. So I don't believe that this is an accurate portrayal of Nefertiti, but I'm interested to hear what you all think.
Yeah, I think the issue is really what is an accurate portrayal of Nefertiti. I mean, this lady lived, hundreds of thousands of years ago. There's all there that we know of her is from, stone carvings and things like that. Nobody really knows what this lady looks like. If you look at the original statue, from my perspective, the one that's world famous, the skin is darker, but that could be just the paint, the whatever they use to color the statue. But the features are not what I would say quote unquote, and I have to be careful here, stereotypically African, especially sub-Saharan African. She has a very slender nose. It seems like certainly an extremely long neck, which I don't even think that's possible, but okay. So I think it's just hard. I give the dude the benefit of the doubt. I see the issue. The skin color is a little problematic, but I'm gonna give him a pass. He's trying to stick with the statue rendering and make a lifelike representation of that. I think he tried. The skin color. The article I'm looking at, which is the Daily Mail article, the headline picture is like the lighting of the picture makes it look a lot lighter. There's a second picture where they have like a darker background, and she looks a little bit more. The skin color looks a little bit darker there. So it could just be a lighting issue with some of these pictures of the thing. A lighting issue, huh?
So sure is a lighting issue.
A lighting issue. A lighting issue. So, but
she was on them. She was on them Sammy Sosa treatments.
We need to talk about that. She
got lighter at every episode that I saw her in.
I mean, so I see the issue, but I don't know if it's a. I'm not going to get too worked up. But I defer to you guys on these cultural topics like this. I guess, like I said, my thing is, how do you guys think of, like, when you think of Africa, do you consider like Egyptians? Because they seem more like ethnically Middle Eastern than anything compared to like sub-Saharan Africa. Nigeria, those countries that when we think of like what you want to call true black countries and things like that.
Well, like I was saying earlier, with Egypt, if you look at even modern Egyptians, there are a lot of fairer-skinned Egyptians. So, yeah, people from Egypt, for the most part, don't necessarily have the same skin color as somebody from Kenya or Nigeria or Nairobi. But still, and I think this is the issue with whitewashing, is it's not always something that's done intentionally. I don't necessarily think that this guy sat and thought, hey, let's intentionally make this whiter, so that we can promote this, this historically white perspective or anything like that. I don't think it was intentional, but it's just something in the subconscious. They said that the color of this Nefertiti was done by the artist. It was an artist's interpretation, and the artist just happened to be a white woman. And so I think even when you look at Disney films or any actually Hollywood films as well, and you see these African kings and queens and princes and princesses, or even Middle Eastern kings and queens and princesses, they're often portrayed by white women or white men. So I think this is something that, I don't know. I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but it's something that the people who are paying for this study, I'm sure, are white people. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Nefertiti looks more white than she probably was in real life.
You better lighten them up, dog. You come to me with no black statue.
Right.
It better not be browner than Paul. Right. That's all I got to say.
Oh, that's pretty light.
Well, you and Nefertiti about the same
pretty light
color,
these
bro.
days.
That's the problem.
That's probably about right. Yep.
Anyway, what about the other discovery? Was what was it, the Cheddar Man? Is that what they call him? Ishmael?
Cheddar Man.
Cheddar Man.
Yes. And the thing about Cheddar Man, like, so this is like the yin and the yang of the world. So Black Twitter, went into a fit when Nefertiti was revealed, and we had our jokes and we called it a whitewashing and everything that it was. And so black people, we were mad, let's just be honest. We were mad. We didn't like it. But then if you go over to England, and they have, a similar type of situation where they have Cheddar Man. Cheddar Man is, I believe, the oldest human remains that they found, or, that's mostly intact. So they've had these remains for a while. And all of the artist renditions that people made with Cheddar Man, of course, is England, Europe. So they had a European man, a white man. But what they did recently is they did a DNA. They pulled DNA from them, pulled out the genomes and things like that. And they discovered that Cheddar Man is black. He's black. He's a black man. He did have blue eyes. Now, he did have blue eyes, so... that's that, but he was black and he had curlier hair. And the thing, like, I don't even think they needed to pull the DNA. Like, if your name is Cheddar Man, you black. Like, I feel like he from Memphis. He not even from England. Like, he a rapper from Memphis named Cheddar Man.
A little real talk, dog. When I first saw the picture come up on my timeline, like, I first thing I thought was like, okay, this has got to be a story about Randy Watson, aka Joe the policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama, because that's exactly what the picture looks like. This dude's got he got the goatee going, he got the ultra perm going, That's what I thought. I did that. So when I talking about remains and Cheddar Man, all that thing, that when I saw that picture, I was like, that's what that dude looks like.
Can we genetically find out what type of hair you're gonna have?
And what kind of eyes you can have?
Can we determine that from DNA at this point?
Yeah, I think you can.
The eye color? No, they said the eye color
and the hair.
First of all, let's just break this down. I mean, this Cheddar Man. So this one's the far more interesting topic versus Nefertiti for me. But let's just break this down. So I mean, I can see the skin color being that, but like, just look at the artist rendering. Like, it doesn't really make sense. You got a dark skinned person with blue eyes, which is a very recessive trait, and then you got like the hair of Rick James circa 1979. Nothing makes sense here as far as like how this. I mean, so personally, I think this is a terrible rendering. Do I believe the skin color could be black? Do I think that certainly the original people that settled in England were darker skinned? Probably. This dark, I don't know. But they certainly didn't have any of these features. I just can't see it. It just seems very, very unlikely.
Don't be trying to whitewash Cheddar Man as soon as he got his blackness.
Not trying to wash, but he needs to have a little perm on him. He does not need to have this long flowing hair and blue eyes. That makes no sense at all. That's my only argument. The skin color seems reasonable. Everything else, that's debatable.
Is this not the white archaeologist's wet dream? Like, you find this fossil, you've waited all this time, and you got to find a way to throw some whiteness in on it. Where you say, okay, well, they must at least have blue eyes. That way you can kind of maintain the status quo. I don't know. I just don't see it.
But again, I think with this one,
behind it, though.
I'm more likely to believe it because they have that DNA to go back to. With Nefertiti, I know that they've supposedly pulled some DNA. I don't know if that was used for that bust, but with this one, they looked at the DNA to make those determinations. And so I'm looking on The Root, which we'll put this in the show notes. The Root did an article about it. And it says, I guess this is from the BBC. It says, according to the BBC, there's an explanation, including possibly the cereal-based diet that used to be consumed by some thousands of years ago. It says, pale skin probably arrived in Britain with the migration of people from the Middle East around 6,000 years ago. Cheddar Man is supposed to be about 10,000 years old. So what they're saying is white people really didn't migrate to England until 6,000 years ago. So Cheddar Man was there well before them.
Yeah, none of that made. I'm no scientist. It seems hard to. I mean, I think people have been living there a lot longer than that, just for the skin. I mean, you can see how the migration pattern and how it goes there. I think there certainly were darker skinned people. Maybe even possibly this darker. That seems plausible to me. Just the other extra feature like the blue eyes. I just don't. Where do the blue eyes come from?
Yeah, might have the table.
I don't know.
Look through the article a little bit closer. I've been trying to read through it, but nobody's actually talking about the science to how they can pinpoint it exactly like that. But
I'm not doing well on these cultural issues. I'm gonna do more research on these before I get on here and start spouting off things I have no clue about.
Man, you're fine. Just discussing the world. So whether you're brown or black, it's still your Earth.
Okay, so hold on. Let me ask you this. This is just, we can take this all out, but this is a question. So I think the Cheddar Man color is possibly accurate, but like, what do you like? I want to hear the theory. Like, okay, so so you got Cheddar Man, and then over 6,000 years, then they evolve into obviously very, very pale England people from England. But then you got Eskimos all over Alaska and Canada and stuff like that, and they were there for probably equally as long, right? Because they had to come over here, and they never lost their color. Like, yeah, how does that? Like, I'm so that's. Just thinking about this, that kind of blew my mind. Like, how does that work? Like, how did that? That's why. So I'm thinking it had to be a lot. There had to be something that happened a lot longer.
My link is Fox News. Oh no. But it says researchers suspect, and
Right.
Ishmael, I believe, read something like this. They suspect that the cereal-based diet back then would have lacked the vitamin D, so lighter skin tones would evolve to draw more sunlight for the vitamin D. Um, and it says, as individuals with more melanin aren't as efficient at producing the vitamin D as their lighter skin counterparts. So, it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you're in a really northern cold environment, you won't have as many vegetables and things like that to go by. They probably a lot of meat and fats and whale blubber and all that kind of stuff. So, who knows? Again, not a scientist, but I try.
Well, don't be trying to take away my black cheddar
I won't.
man.
But I will take away. I will not take away your Cheddar Man, but I will raise you a Black Panther.
Ooh, yeah,
Black
this is what I want to talk
Panther.
about. I want to hear your
Now
thoughts.
we
Yeah,
know
yay.
Black Panther the movie comes out. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing it again. February the 16th. We're gonna move on to the next phase, and I must say I'm super hyped for this movie. Um, but black people can't have anything without there being some hate. And apparently, there's been a lot of Black Panther hate um, here on the internet. So I was looking at a Variety article where there has been uh, a white nationalist alt-right movement to basically bring down the Rotten Tomato scores of the Black Panther movie when it debuts. So, what you think about that, Ishmael?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, you can just look at the title, Black Panther, and you know that there's going to be a certain community that is going to oppose the film. I mean, this is a movie that has been celebrated, has a, you know, black producer, majority black cast. Again, the lead name is Black Panther. So you know that there are going to be racist people, especially in this environment that we have today, that are going to come out and hate on it. For me, I'm actually surprised. I know whenever the first negative review came out, there was a lot of discussion about it, and people were saying, you know, this guy's hating because his basis for leaving the negative review is he didn't think that Black Panther beat up enough bad guys. But it was just amazing to me that it stayed at 100% for so long. Now, the movie hasn't come out yet, but just for all of the critics that have seen it early, it kept that 100% rating for a long time. And now I'm looking at it right now, and it's still at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the critical response has been almost unanimously positive. I'm very excited about the film. I went ahead and I said, look, I gotta do the full experience here. So I got me a shirt, a dashiki, that to make it looks like, you know, yes I did. And I actually have one. I have one already, but I didn't want to wear that
got
one.
a brand new
so I got
dashiki.
a new one that
Man, I'm
will be
holding my fist up
arriving
for you right now,
yes, in
brother.
the mail. So I will be going to the movies to see Black Panther in my full Wakanda attire.
Ryan, you better not wear that Cardinals jersey to that damn
This is my only
premiere.
coat,
You better
man. I
not do
don't
that,
have a
Ryan. Do
choice.
not
What
wear the
am I gonna
Cardinals
do?
jersey to the showing.
I try to go find some Sean John or something, maybe. I don't know. Pick up something at Ross on the clearance.
Not Ross.
But yeah, so apparently it says that the Huffington Post contacted the moderator of said Facebook group, and he identified himself as a white nationalist, alt-right. He said that he also wanted to bring down The Last Jedi, which you wouldn't have to because it's already a terrible movie. Yeah, I said it. And then he was saying that he thought they were going to make Luke Skywalker and Poe Dameron gay, and so he was worried about that. And he said that he thinks that men need to be reestablished as rulers of society. And I think by men he means white men. And he's also upset that more female characters have been added to the franchise. So I know he's gonna hate Black Panther because it looks like all the warriors in Wakanda are women, or at least it looks like that way from the trailer. Big roles there for his sister and what's her name, old girl from Walking Dead, and I'm looking forward to it. And cut. Hate to say this, but this is where we had some technical difficulties. Our audio dropped off for Paul. Not really sure what happened there, but we didn't have any of his audio. Everybody else's uploaded just fine, but I didn't want to waste 30-some minutes of what I thought to be a good show. So, unfortunately, this is where we got to stop. I appreciate everybody listening that is listening. Likes and shares, thoughts and prayers. Let people know about the pod if you liked it. We'll be back next week for a full episode. You can reach us on Facebook, of course, the Black Delegates podcast. Share it there. See you next week. Thanks.